So, unconditional love. What is unconditional love? I've had many experiences in my experience thus far where people are aren't familiar with even the concept of unconditional love, or they have their own interpretation of unconditional love, which is rooted in them just trying to excuse their narcissism or some kind of toxic behavior. Or, yeah, for the most part, most people don't know what unconditional love is. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hello again, Master Jamal or Yahumāl. Uh, Whatever title you prefer to call me, you can see it in my bio and all that jazz. But yes, unconditional love. What is it? So, my interpretation of what it means to unconditionally love is simple, to say the least. But to explain it as best I can and as simple as I can, I believe it or not, despite what I said about me being a Christian before, I actually follow and practice what I've gathered to be how the being known as Jesus would practice, or at least from what I've read, how he would practice unconditional love. And the thing is, there's a lot of empathy when you consider what unconditional love is. There's a lot of not judging someone when they're doing some things that they shouldn't be doing. There's a lot of just allowing. And this is going off of from what I'm just saying off the top of my head. So this video will have some cuts in it, any pauses or whatnot. And my biggest takeaway is to love without to love without condition. What that means is, again, using what I was talking about with how Jesus was doing it, is essentially just loving someone for who they are and accepting them for who they are. But one thing I learned throughout my experiences thus far is you're going to have to put a lid or some kind of boundary in place, because people can take advantage of that kindness, of that accepting me as I am, this, if you know what I mean. Because there have been so many, water. There have been so many instances where it seems as though, I will catch it before we get too far. And that's only because I would honestly reflect on experiences I've had in the past. And let me also say this, because I feel like this is really important. Regardless of what this video topic is, this is really important. So, just because something looks like something doesn't mean it's the same. On the other side of that same coin, the same pattern is the same pattern. I hope that makes sense, because me bringing that up is going to talk about this, because I've noticed the same patterns of past people, and it's like, for these people to be displaying the same patterns in speech, patterns in behavior, patterns in their interactions towards me, that's a red flag. That should be a red flag for anyone. If someone is showing you the same patterns, that should be a red flag. But I gotta stress, just because it looks like something, it still does not mean it's the same thing, because things can be misconstrued depending on how you have yourself handled and processed whatever it was you experienced before. Now, I know this kind of off top. No. This is relevant to unconditional love, because the thing is, when it comes to unconditional love, you can still unconditionally love these people regardless of what's going on, whether you choose to keep them in your experience reality or not. But the fact of the matter is, I'm only bringing this up because this is also something that's important. And I'm not even sure how this topic can be talked about even further, because of how in this very moment I'm not able to find the words to it. But to reiterate once more before I move on, just because something looks like something doesn't mean that it's the same thing. The key words is this looks like this, or that looks like that. This seems like this. But patterns, that's different. It's all about the word play that I'm using right now. Patterns and like, they're like synonymous. Like, oh, you can say like what's a good example? I can't even think of an example right now. But yeah, patterns, same. Something is like this. It reminds you, because I'll just use these two things I have on my desk. I have my Sri Lanka and my Pokeball Go. Quite literally, both of these things are round, right? That's the pattern. That's the shape. They're both round. But just because this is this doesn't mean it's that. Just because this looks like this in terms of like how it's shaped, it doesn't mean it's the same. But they have the same pattern. I hope that makes sense. Because it makes sense to me as I'm explaining it. It's I really hope that makes sense. Like I want to stress that so hard, so much, that I hope that makes sense, because I've noticed that kind of a tangent a little bit. I was told that I was making things up in this scenario. I was told that I was making things up based off of my past experiences, and they completely misconstrued what I was telling them based off of my past experiences, and that was a red flag in itself, because it's like, I'm telling you what I experienced, but you're telling me is like not exactly. Either way, that's why I'm saying this. Noticing patterns from one person to a different person, red flag. That should always be a red flag. You can still have unconditional love for this person, but it's like once you see this side of them, it's like, okay, I can only keep this person around for a certain amount of time, and or just keep them at a distance at all times, but still vibrationally send them unconditional love. As a Reiki master myself, which I haven't done it yet, I'm only saying it now, is like honestly as a reminder. I do Reiki, or I'm going to start doing Reiki for people I've had not so great experiences with in the past, just to like continuously put out that loving energy. And it's, I don't know, for these individuals that come to mind, I'm not going to say any names, I feel like they need it, and I feel like it would be in my best interest to do that, rather than to build a bridge to communicate with them once again. But again, this is one of the ways I practice unconditional love, because yeah, I know it's in my best interest to not have, because what to clarify, yes, the Reiki session, building the energy connection, like, oh, Jamal, you could be like, that's just as pretty much the same thing as like the same pattern energetically as actually building a bridge. Like, yeah, true, but something that my master taught me is, yes, you can build that energetic bridge with someone when you do a Reiki session, but you can also break it. And in every Reiki session I do, I always sever the bond, because no thank you. No thank you. But what was I even going with this? Oh yes, so with that Reiki session, it would be in my best interest to send them that energy so they can heal from whatever is causing them to do that, because ultimately that's what it is. When you're, again, this is just me speaking from my perspective, when practicing unconditional love, I've realized that in a lot of my experiences with the individuals, with the beings in my past that I've had experiences with, I would notice things that wouldn't sit well with me early on, and it'll just unfold as like, oh, okay. I see why I noticed this before, and I also see why they are the way they are. And one thing I would say for sure that I don't do much of, like Jesus would do, is I'm not going to try to fix someone's problem for them. Because when it comes to this emotional load, yes, I have unconditional love for this person, but I'm going to help within the means of making sure I keep my peace. Because that is another important part of the whole unconditional love thing. Yes, always have unconditional love with boundaries with other people. But if you are not actively practicing unconditional love for yourself, you're doing everybody, especially yourself, a huge disservice. So that's why you gotta have those boundaries, due to the fact that yes, there are some people out here who have a misconstrued view of what love is. It's not entirely their fault, whether they are aware of it or not. Well, once they become aware of it, it's like, okay, yeah, now it's your fault because you know that you got this issue going on over here. You're not trying to do anything about it. Versus they aren't aware of what's going on and they're just going through life. And that whole, oh, I can fix them mentality. Once you catch yourself, like, then that's the beauty of awareness. Like, little tangent here, that I can fix the mentality. Please drop that, because you're going to do yourself more harm than good. But again, admittedly, that can be a form of unconditional love. Like, if someone is willing to go that distance to take whatever that oh, I can fix them is going to talk about, then yeah, go right ahead. That is your choice. And that's another thing with unconditional love, accepting people's choices. When practicing unconditional love, or what it means to be love unconditionally, is accepting, again, people for who they are and who they portray. And also that means their choices, because yeah, your best friend can be like, yo, this is the one. I don't care how bad this relationship is, or like how abusive emotionally, physically, or mentally it is. I want to stick by their side. And it's up to you as the friend of that person to be like, all right, that's your choice. And it's kind of a weird situation, because it's like they chose to stick around with that for their practicing of unconditional love. It's kind of funny now I'm thinking about it. Yes, there are different versions of unconditional love. It's crazy how I just came full circle like that. There are different versions of unconditional love. Everyone has their own definition. Like I mentioned before in the video earlier, I, for the most part, have been fashioning mine after what I've learned from reading what Jesus did when I was reading the Bible. During that time I was Christian or whatnot. And I feel like that is the way to go. Again, I feel like that is the way to go. And that, now that I'm saying that out loud, is definitely one of the reasons why I felt I felt an attraction. I felt gravitated to being a Reiki master myself, because it's like one thing I've learned as a martial artist and reading Bruce Lee's books is that I cherish life. And Bruce Lee's philosophy with the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and like just everything he did, he talked about just loving life. And if you aren't doing your best to like put your best foot forward at all times, at everything, on a daily commitment, routine type of stuff, you aren't loving life. And it's something like that. That's not it verbatim. He has some kind of saying about loving life, and if you truly love life, you wouldn't waste time, or something like that. And that is something I adopted myself. And with that, I want to love life, my life, and other people's lives, and preserve life as much as possible. Like, cause I watch anime, and I feel like if I was in the Dragon Ball universe, which, like, on a small plug here, I am working on a story, like a what if story with that. My character, like, for example, in this scenario of this what if story, I am inserting myself in the Dragon Ball story as if I trained with Roshi along with Krillin and Goku. And as I'm like building the story, I realized some of the stuff I practice spiritually is technically already in the Dragon Ball universe. Toriyama-sama just decided to go this route with Goku and all that stuff. Because even Whis himself, Whis has shown that he practices Wing Chun. And I practice Wing Chun. So it's like, either way, saying that to say, I realized that I will go down the creator path. Because it seemed as though Goku's going down the angelic path, Vegeta's going down the destroyer path, and myself, if I was in the Dragon Ball universe, I'd be going down the creator path. So I guess like a Kai, Supreme Kai kind of thing. I feel like that is the best way to explain it. But anyway, yeah, preserving life is something. It's something that is important to me, and unconditional love in life, from how I've been seeing it, is you can't have one without the other. And again, everyone has their own different meaning of life, just like how everyone has their own different meaning for unconditional love. Now, let me take some steps back, because I feel like I was talking about a lot, took some tangents, took some detours here and there. So the thing is, unconditional love, what is it? Honestly, it's whatever you choose it to be. And the beauty of it, the beauty of life, is understanding how someone else practices their love, and also learning how you want to practice your love. I already explained mine, and it's contingent on communication as well. Because I'm a very detail-oriented person. I like to explain things in as much detail as possible. And admittedly, there may be times where I can't exactly find the words to explain what I'm feeling or what it should be, or some kind of clues. Either way, I try to be as conflict resolution oriented. Well, I try to be as solution oriented as possible with everything that I do, because I feel like for me, it's simple, it's easy that way. I'll explain as much as I can. If someone just so happens to not get it, it's cool. I'm gonna try again, and I'll try up until I feel like I'm not being heard, because that's my boundary right there. Because yeah, again, unconditional love, still the fact that yes, everyone has their own definitions of unconditional love. However, unconditional love in its nature is just loving unlimited, loving without measure. Unconditional love is loving without measure in nature. And the thing is, due to honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of the needing for boundaries is due to the fact that agriculture is a thing. And by that I mean agriculture has been like a domino effect of all these extra things that weren't here at one point in the existence of life. Because I know we weren't always doing the things that we're doing now, like paying bills, paying taxes, buying food, the means of trading wasn't monetary. We would just literally trade or barter. And I know things back then, before technology became what it is today, things were completely different. But with technology being what it is today, that admittedly has inflated a lot of our egos. Once upon a time, I knew what it's like. I knew what it was like to have an inflated ego, and I catch myself whenever I feel my ego being too inflated or beginning to inflate in general. And those are the moments where I'll admit that I'm wrong, and and I'm like, okay, you're right, I was wrong, let's try to fix this. And yeah, unconditional love, it's multiple things. I feel like at this point in the video, I can definitely say it's multiple things. It's one, your definition of unconditional love is yours. Two, unconditional love is still loving without measure. Three, you can still have boundaries due to just how things are in life. Boundaries are still needed. And you can still practice unconditional love again, Reiki. If you are also interested in learning Reiki, my link's down below. Just like if you're also interested in, having someone there for you as a mentor, you can book some of my sessions below as well. Just plug. Also, my socials are down there as well for getting to know me, the real Master Jamal. I also stream on Twitch. There's quite a few things down there to click on besides just like booking me for any kind of appointments. But yes, to reiterate one last time, unconditional love is what you want it to be. However, you always need to love yourself first. Because loving yourself is loving others. And also loving yourself, you can teach others how to love you. Love languages. I didn't even touch on love languages. But it is what it is.